let's touch on a little bit more of the lessons learned and some of that mental side, because I know that you coach a lot of the elite Hawaii MMA fighters, right? You coach a lot of other people that are looking to either fight amateurly or in the pro scene, right?
Sure.
But I think from experience, not only the experience of actually being through it, but how you've learned to be successful, right? The rest of your career is like, I think you pass on a lot of great insight and words of wisdom. So share a little bit about that. Like, what has your experience been kind of navigating through that mental growth side of things in the sport of Muay Thai or anything really?
Oh man, tremendous. I think like, for one thing, from my pro Muay Thai career and transitioning to pro MMA and whatnot, I think back then, being that it was a different time, back in the 90s and the early 2000s and stuff, it was really different. I think there wasn't any social media for one thing. Yeah. And that's a huge thing that's really, really changed the landscape, I think, of athletes' mentality nowadays. So for myself, and I think a lot of the generation back then, I think a lot of those guys could probably attest to it, is that you enjoy the journey. If you didn't enjoy training and working really hard, sweating in that room and sacrificing in the shadows with no credit, without nobody watching sort of thing, then fighting was not for you. 100% not. You could not do this thing. Once more, I guess, notoriety, the internet and things start to expand more and more, you know what I mean? I think there became different motivations and so forth, and I think, with that became more money and everything. But for myself, I always want to think about kind of like the long game, not just right now, but I'm always thinking the long game, so I'm thinking longevity, not just to be successful, but to be successful for a long period of time. If this is something that you enjoy, the goal in life is to be able to take something that's a hobby that you enjoy and be able to call it work one day. It's a hard thing for people to swallow, and like, can you really do that? I can't do that. So I think the biggest thing was that being willing to work without any sort of credit, needing any sort of praise to help, be like this carrot that's in front of you to kind of reach to the next step before there's another reward, and I think that was huge for me. And that was one of the things where I think I'm a patient coach. I think I'm a very compassionate coach, but I'm a hard man, and life has taught me that, my experiences have taught me that to weed through all the nonsense and whatnot, and I can really, it's become such a thing now where I can really weed through. I can tell you who's going to be something and who's not, just because of what comes out of their mouth easily, know. But I think through the process, it set me up for my goal, which was eventually, after fighting, I wanted to become a coach. I knew I wanted to open up my own gym 100%, and I think I stopped fighting sooner than I wanted to, when I started going through injuries and so forth and not knowing how best to take care of myself. The idea was I was going to go back to it, but I ended up coaching. I started coaching a little more, and I think things started transitioning for me, and I realized, man, like, a lot of people kind of count on me to be there for them, to fight and coach at the same time. I don't know if I can do it.
So throughout your career, thinking about, how you kind of, after those losses, right, you went on this win streak, and, you kind of learned from all of that. What types of big things mentally did your career teach you?
It's kind of tough, and I don't think everyone will be able to identify with this. I hate losing. Okay, I hate losing. I'm very competitive, but I don't celebrate my wins. It's a big difference, because I've been around this for such a long time, over half my life, and nobody likes to lose, of course, right? But there's different degrees of it, because most people celebrate their wins, their achievements. They worked hard for it and so forth. But for me, I'm with myself, I'm pretty critical. I've always been kind of a perfectionist with myself, and I think all I can think about after a win, even if I knocked the guy out, was like everything that I did wrong. I'd go back and try to, if anybody had any tape on it or whatnot, I'd try to watch tape on it and stuff. And I'd be back in the gym on Monday. Fight Saturday, I'd be back in the gym on Monday. And, you know, fly back home, and I'd be back in the gym as soon as I arrive home. And I would go over the scenarios where I got hit and what I should have done, how I should have reacted better. If there's anything that made me feel uncomfortable, I obsessed about it. I absolutely obsessed about it. If I didn't have an answer for it, I absolutely obsessed about it. I had to find the answer. And so that set kind of the precedent afterwards, because I made that my approach through the rest of my career. Okay. You know, I'll go over tape over and over and over and over again, watching guys and whatnot, and just when I would watch fights, just as a fan, you know, watching fights of the guys that I really liked and whatnot, I would watch them. But like I was telling my son the other day, you know, my son Aries, is that watch, just sometimes, just when you're in the gym, sometimes just watch people and whatnot, because I'll watch tape of my favorite fighters in the world, and I'll watch what they did well and what they did, you know, didn't do so well, but I would think in my head how to beat them. You know, how to beat them. So what had happened was that kind of created I guess kind of a system for me mentally. You know what I mean? It's kind of something that I just had for myself. And it was like a system of my own internal checks and balances to keep myself in check. You know, so no one ever would catch me slipping. Was that I would problem solve whatever a person did that they're good at. I would create 3 answers of how to take that away. You know, 3 answers for everything they did well, everything that they either did well or they needed to do to do something successful. I would find 3 answers of how to take that away and make them pay for it. So as a coach, that became kind of a foundation of my system of being more of a, I guess, a defensive based coach. Yeah, more of a tactician type, where I would make sure that when we go in there, nobody could do anything to you to make you feel so uncomfortable that you couldn't perform what you do. You know, and I see that a lot. I see that so much where guys get uncomfortable, you know, they don't have an answer for this or that, and you know, and like I said, you know, like you touched on with my coaching various different types of athletes, whether it be the AMIs locally here, regional, or it's some of my pros that are competing at the top 1%, you know, even world championship level. I see it there. I see it there through, you know, dozens and dozens of different athletes and camps every time I fly out for these events. And it's just, I feel like in a way it's kind of my secret weapon, you know, because I think the biggest thing now is that, especially with MMA, people are impatient. You know, and being that I just feel grateful and blessed that I saw Kickboxer all those years ago, because being that I'm from Muay Thai, I'm very defensive based. I believe in having a strong defense, and offense becomes easier when you know how to recover defensively. You know what I mean? So that's been huge for me to take from my career and implement now as a coach.
And that's really interesting to hear too, because, you know, me watching from the outside, I've never done mixed martial arts, you know, like really intensely, but as a casual fan, right? I can appreciate movement. I can appreciate, you know, the training, the sacrifice, all of those things, because that's similar to other sports, right? But it's so interesting to hear the coach's perspective, because every single thing, doesn't matter what sport it is, doesn't matter if it's even strength and conditioning, you know, what I do, everything can be so technical. And you can have one person just kind of think, oh, that's good enough, or you can have the other person that wants to know, how do I make this better, or what's 3 answers to solve this, right? So I think that approach, I mean, that's something that I really relate to, because I mean, you know, we'll talk about your injuries in a minute, but even taking care of your injuries, it's like, there's no way I'm going to do the exact same thing 6 months from now, even, because I'm going to have bigger perspective, better things that probably will work a little better. So same thing, like, you know, when you're coming up with strategies, when you're coaching people, I know you're always looking, how can I improve this or relate to them more or coach this instruction better? So that's so good to hear from that perspective.
Oh, you're absolutely right about that. Like you said, I'm not the same every 6 months. You know what I mean? If I'm not raising my game, constantly looking to get better, then how do I keep up with these guys, helping them to get better? You know, so yeah, you hit it around the head.
Yeah, that's where we share, I think, a lot of similar philosophies.